gaming should be serious, is my argument. And I'm not saying in this segment that, of course, there shouldn't be a Fortnite out there and enjoy unserious games, of course.
Should there be a Fortnite out there?
Well, okay, Fortnite is. We'll come back to Fortnite later, actually. I've got some first words for what they've been up to. But I'm not saying that all gaming should be serious with this. It's just there is something I've mentioned a couple of times previously that I thought I'd finally make a segment on to actually explain my argument fully.
All right.
I'm kind of annoyed that there are no serious games, specifically with World War II, is what I have in mind. But things that take history seriously in the AAA scene. I know there are minor ones. I can't remember the last.
You used to have plenty of them.
Yeah.
Maybe 15 years ago when World War II shooters were, some were saying an oversaturated market, but honestly, it was a really good market to have oversaturated, let's be honest.
It was a golden time.
It really was.
Like, looking back, people were like, oh, there's so many World War II games. I was like, yeah,
and then
it was good.
COD 4 comes out, everybody goes, oh, finally, we're in the modern warfare, and then...
Yeah, let's go to the future. But a whole other conversation about the death of Call of Duty aside, it's really just, like I was mentioning, there are some minor World War II shooters that come out. I remember there was one that was set in Poland that was really cool because you got to see a new front for once. It was the invasion of Poland by the Germans, so that period.
Whatever game that is, I don't know.
But that's the point. It's not like the AAA scene used to be in scale. So we'll start off by mentioning something on lotusseries.com, this being the Active Measures Book Club, because, well, it's just a good book club, I suppose. It goes into the KGB and the CIA. Deeply unserious people, by the sounds of the book.
Scroll up. How many views does this have? Because this is the only book club you ever promote.
I like it.
We need to pump those numbers.
I got other book clubs.
Less than... I know, you've done book clubs with me. It's just this one, constantly.
I just really like this one.
Fair play.
It's usually relevant, because, I mean, like, this one, I've mentioned it so many times, but, like, the CIA and the KGB are just S-posting at each other in real life and wasting lots of money.
Please watch this one in particular. Get it up to 10k views so that Callum may finally be satisfied.
I don't care about the views. I just people like it. That's
Damn, he'll never stop.
Gets 1 million views, and I'm like, it's more than 1 million people out there. So
yeah.
Anyway, but to the point, because the way I'm going to introduce this is with a weird situation, which is that this chap decided to make a Holocaust game, which, I mean, on the face of it, that phrase sounds a bit weird, right? It's a bit odd thing to go for. But
what's the gameplay?
Well, it's I believe a role-playing game. So you live through this family's life who are going through the experience of the Holocaust. And I haven't had time to play it, which is annoying. I believe it's free, so I think you can go and pick it up if you want to.
Oh, okay.
But let me explain it, because it's actually something that's kind of good. It's not someone taking the mickey or anything. So this guy says, Wire created the first video game about the Holocaust. I don't think it's the first one to ever mention it, but it's the first, like...
I think, if I remember correctly, Wolfenstein that came out in 2014, I think there's a part where you go through a fictional concentration, because obviously that's set in the 60s, but in that universe they've set up more concentration camps, and you go through a fictional one.
You break out, don't you, I believe?
I didn't play the game all the way through, but I think so, yeah.
I watched that scene, I think.
I've seen it, yeah.
Anyway, but he says in here, initial data showing where the game has been downloaded fulfilled his hopes of accessing territories known for their Holocaust denial and anti-Semitism, and reaching players in places where there is no Holocaust museums or memorials or schools to visit. So this is something that actually is kind of interesting, because I've had this myself with people from the Arab world. When you meet them in university and they don't know why Israel exists.
Do they really? You'd think that would be...
clue.
You would think they would all know that, seeing as, where this just popped up in 1947 all of a sudden.
Yeah. The thing is, the Holocaust history isn't taught to them, of course. It's oversaturated with us. We've been over this. Like, I went through learning about the Holocaust 4 times in secondary school, and each time it didn't add anything. It was just the same stuff.
I went through it a few times as well, and then there's also the fact that there are countries who have all the Holocaust museums that actively took a participating role in liberating them as well, so it's almost like pointing the finger in a lot of cases.
White guilt around the Holocaust, which makes no sense.
No.
But that's a Western conversation. This isn't about the Western conversation, which, of course, there are plenty of things to be said. This is about, let's say, the Eastern conversation. Because I have had that experience where, like, people just don't know what the Holocaust was from the Arab world, and you're like, I've got some news for you, which is always a bit weird. It's like telling them that World War II happened, and they just don't know. It's like, huh. Anyway, but this guy says, so why wasn't Bernard, the creator, whose English grandmother took in Kindertransport children, celebrating? Well, it's an interesting point. So why is everyone upset that he's decided to make this? I don't want to show that screenshot just yet, John, because that might be a bit of a giveaway. But a quick side moment, we shall, just to have a conversation which I wanted to for a while, which is extra credits. Now, before they went completely cringe and started claiming that black people were orcs and all the rest of the weird stuff they did, where they started arguing that the game made you a Nazi because you played a multiplayer game.
There's only one problem.
Yeah.
You're a Nazi.
You didn't choose this. Yeah, extra credits did the dumb.
Yes.
More than once, routinely. Whole other problem. But
I honestly hadn't watched their videos before I'd seen that, so I've just always assumed that they were some kind of lolcow.
They're actually all right, in my opinion. Just
I heard people saying that.
Casual viewer. And this was one of the episodes where they talked about World War II. So if you're going to make a game about World War II, maybe there's some things you could do that isn't just D-Day. And they went through some other aspects. I mean, I don't know if I can get the chapters up real quick, which is just like, so have conflicts in other parts of the world that aren't usually seen. Greece, the Philippines, India, they get for there.
That would be nice. Yeah, because World War II, it was not just the utmost most western part of the Western Front. That's not all it was.
It's not just Stalingrad and D-Day.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair. But this point here is about period themes, as they write. And they're giving you the example of the fact that so many World War II games, even back, I don't know what year this was, 7 years ago, won't touch the Holocaust, for example. Like, won't even mention that it's happening in the game, which is kind of weird. And increasingly, we've seen game industry developers move away from even mentioning, like, the Nazis were here. Like, just getting rid of the swastikas and being like, yeah, so it was the Germans. It's like, what?
Watering down the imagery of it just to protect people's fragile feelings is a very strange thing to do when the whole point, I would imagine, with a lot of these people is that they don't want these things to repeat ever again. So
well, it's just
seem to be counter their own message.
But like when they have the mission set in the Soviet Union, they're happy with them being communists and talking about the Soviet Union and the Russians were.
That's because people think those things are cool.
Yeah,
starving your own population is cool.
But having the Germans be represented by the people in charge at the time, that's not allowed. But they make the point here of like, you should probably put some propaganda posters up to increase the world building. They also give an example of like, what if you helped a character who's a victim of the Holocaust survive or escape or something? Like those are ways you can build it in without it being super weird and hits on the point in a way that builds on the world.
And you don't have to turn the whole thing, because my problem is if developers did that now, I would imagine it turning into a big social justice lecture where they wouldn't just focus on that particular character in a way that would make sense to the character and the developments in his own life. They would turn that character into...
Isn't this just like America?
They would turn the character into a preachy mouthpiece for everything they dislike about the modern time as well.
Yeah,
so I would be very hesitant for most developers to tackle it now.
But this is the thing. I mean, this segment is really just me whining about why the game industry should be better and here's how to do it.
Yeah, but I agree that the gaming industry, because I do believe that games can be an art form in and of themselves. I'm not like Roger Ebert who said, oh, they'll never be art or anything like that. And you can tackle serious issues in a serious way. Just the people in charge of lots of gaming companies now are not serious people.
That's the thing. It's obviously art. It's just there is bad art. You can do it badly, and you can do it well.
Roger Ebert, I know you're dead, but was The Room art? I say yes, actually.
But there's more to this. I want to give a concrete example, which is the one I've brought up previously, but visually now, is World at War. Now, I really like World at War.
Classic.
It's probably one of my favorite games, to be honest, looking back on it.
Looking back, it's certainly my favorite Call of Duty game alongside Black Ops, I'd say.
Yeah. I think I'd go for World at War over Black Ops, but Black Ops is also great.
Yeah, there was that golden period of Treyarch when they were producing some of the games.
But one of the things is that World at War did take itself seriously, and it wasn't just the fact, as you can see here, there are swastikas in the Reichstag building, openly displayed.
Where you would expect them to be.
What do you think is going to be there? And in the modern game, of course, they try and replace those things in the multiplayer especially, but otherwise also in single player sometimes, which is a bit gay.
Because apparently just showing someone a swastika is enough to send most teenagers these days into an actual heart attack from stress.
But it's not just that. It's also even for the time, this was kind of cool. Like the Russians, it would start off with the Soviet campaign, let's say, where you would see the Germans committing war crimes against Russians, like killing innocent people or surrendered soldiers. And then the same would also happen with the Russians when they were taking Berlin. Like there's a scene where you have some Russians beating up some surrendered prisoners, and then you can either kill them or they kill them. And
yeah, I remember that. That was quite striking at the time. I remember that World at War, like you say, actually did a very good job portraying both sides as being terrible. Like you say, the Germans committed war crimes, but what's his name? Reznov, the character that you're going...
Your commander, yeah.
Yeah, you're voiced by Gary Oldman. He's talking the whole time about how the Russian high command betrayed them all, betrayed the motherland, all of the horrible conditions back home. So it really does hammer it home that there's
more to the history than just this side bad, that's enough, let's move on.
On the eastern,
it's like, this side is bad, but there's
on the Eastern Front, there was no good guys.
It's pretty horrific front. Probably the most horrific, except maybe the Chinese in terms of numbers. You know all the memes about the Red Army, just a side point. It's like, one man gets rifle, next man pick up gun.
I think they did that in Call of Duty 2 for the introduction, didn't they? For the
yeah, but the thing
tutorial.
Is, it's largely not true, obviously, because the Soviets did have industrial capacity to build, let's say, a gun or two. But in China, like you might go into battle with a sword against Japanese with machine guns.
Okay, that explains why they did so poorly against the Japanese.
Yeah, the numbers are 20 million dead against the Japanese. It's like, yeah, you don't get that numbers without not having equipment. But anyway, this isn't my only point here, because I want to also just visually, real quick, show this in the outro of Call of Duty World at War for people who haven't seen it, because it is actually, in my opinion, just like a masterpiece in the fact that it's not just, let's take the subject matter seriously, but also the games used to be a place which tried to honor those who died, many of whom would probably be interviewed to try and understand the various theaters they were trying to represent in the game.
I mean, there's fewer and fewer of those people alive now.
So I'm going to play this. It's a little bit long, but I hope you'll agree with me it's worth it, just to understand for people who don't know the flavor. So,
solemn, General Eisenhower informs me that the forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations. The victory won in the West must now be won in the East.
Gathered here, representatives of the major warring powers, to conclude a solemn agreement whereby peace may be restored. It is my earnest hope, and indeed the hope of all mankind, that from this solemn occasion a better world shall emerge out of the blood and carnage of the past. A world founded upon faith and understanding. Of man and the fulfillment of his most cherished wish for freedom, tolerance, and justice.
So, like, 14-year-old Callum playing that game, that's a really good ending. Yeah. Really satisfying ending to the game, anyway, on a whole side note. But just, like, the educational aspect and the taking the people who did those deeds seriously, I think has just been lost in a lot of regards. And Call of Duty World at War is just my go-to example.
Well, as you said, you can really tell that the people involved in the production of that game had a real serious understanding of the subject matter and a desire to portray it respectfully.
And sort of somehow that dissolved into this. This is why there are black Nazis and no swastikas in Call of Duty World at War on multiplayer.
And there you go. This is why I say I don't trust people these days to produce anything serious if they're trying to be serious.
So, I mean, there's the argument from the single player in here, which I'll just address quickly, which is it's Germany. Germany censored the swastika in the game, so we can't put them in there for the single player for Germany. Fair enough. Okay, that's a question mark.
You always make regional changes for particular games.
But the multiplayer, I just don't get. So they say here, multiplayer, however, is another beast altogether. In both competitive multiplayer and zombies mode, the swastika was left out. In many ways, Sledgehammer has ditched historical accuracy and created something they view as accessible to everyone, with the horrors of that specific war, the Nazis' fascist, racist regime left out altogether.
So not World War II.
Why are you trying to make a World War II game accessible to everyone by deleting the Nazis from it?
It also didn't stop people from playing and buying those games for in their millions for 2000
Yeah.
to 2010 when they were, like I say, an oversaturated market.
What does that even mean, though? Like,
means-
who sat there going, well, I would play the new Call of Duty game, but there's Nazis in it.
It means bugger all is what it means, Callum. It means that everything has to subscribe to the message, even if the subject matter in the first place is what the message is actually foundationally based on.
It's so weird. Such a weird argument. And just real quick to remind people, because I thought I might have been having the Mandela effect, where I've forgotten if World at War had the swastikas. You can see here, this is one of the maps. I don't know if I can change it real quick. This is the underground, so I think this is the subway in Berlin. And this guy is just his multiplayer gameplay. And you
There's
can
an
see
iron cross.
Yep.
There you go.
That's in the subway in Berlin. There's also Adolf Hitler Strasse, of course. I mean, I don't know how far you take the idea you've got to remove the Nazis from the World War II multiplayer. I mean, do you have to get rid of Adolf Hitler Street?
Well,
I don't know what you do. Like, how much of the propaganda do you have to remove? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me.
And given that we still live within what many deem to be the post-war consensus, if you take out all context of what that war was and what it was fighting against, what does the post-war consensus become? Because
what does any of this become?
Yeah, you're just trying to remove the historical context from history itself. Congratulations, everything is now a grey mire, and nobody knows what's going on,
Could
ever.
you imagine, though, if you'd interviewed a World War II veteran to get some knowledge on one of the particular battles that you're going to make in your World War II game, and you delete the Nazis from it, and then go back to him and be like, isn't this realistic? And you'd be like...
He'd probably say that you're insulting him.
Yeah, and it's not the only multiplayer game. I didn't have time to add it. I should have, which is the Dome map as well. You know, remember, is what it was called, the Reichstag on top. That multiplayer, of course, had swastikas everywhere because it's the Reichstag.
Of course.
It's not the only one as well. I mean, we have here, I think it's Call of Duty Zombies in Dirties, which is great. I don't know why. I think I got the timestamp wrong, I guess. But there's the what's-it-calls out. I forget the damn name. The big bell. There we are.
Oh yes,
the big bell. Obviously, have the swastikas as well in Zombies mode, and they're over the map in other places. But that's the only one I could think of at the time. Whereas now, we have black female Nazis in the multiplayer.
Makes perfect sense to me.
Inclusivity. I mean, I just...
the most inclusive regime there ever was.
I'm sorry, but this is what I mean by it. It's really kind of insulting the way this works. I mean, from this article, there's another quote in here where they say of the black female Nazis, quote, "We've had gender and racial diversity in several games now in multiplayer, and it seems to just make sense to stick with this approach for every game." Well, why not have transgender Nazis then? Sincerely, if you're saying that, well, we should have more diversity,
I mean, Rom was gay. Why not center something about, the Night of the Long Knives? If you want some representation in there, you cast yourself as Rom.
We'll have some Muslim women conducting the Light of the Long Knives in the multiplayer, are we? I mean, it's just
they're going to throw Rom off a roof.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing. Like, you're not going to get a mature audience if you treat your audience like children, and I hate everything about this. And this brings us to that topic from earlier. This guy who's made a Holocaust game, and the response is that people hate him for it, at least within his circle. They're blanking him. They say in here, they go on to just quickly go over the fact that the gaming industry is huge, shapes our culture. I don't have too much time, so I'm skipping most of this, but I'm pretty sure we're all used to that. He says, however, rather than help Bernard, some Holocaust and anti-hate organizations viewed him with suspicion and, as he claims, tried to shame him for trying to create the Holocaust game because they believed it was incompatible with the seriousness and weight of the Holocaust.
Okay, some of these organizations really don't help themselves, do they?
No. They go on, quote, "The journey has been so terrible. In January, I was wanting to kill myself. Friends had to do an intervention," he says. "It's the loneliness. I've been treated this way by some of the people in the field. Everything just took a toll on me because I'm someone who is trying to do good here," he puts it. He poured more than $200,000 of his own money
Bloody hell.
into making this game.
How did he get all that money in the first place?
I think he's also a game developer. So
he might have just had it left over from previous stuff.
Yeah. And he says, after pouring in that money for free, and offering the game for free, all I got in return from some organization was a polite FU, which is just ridiculous. I'm kind of annoyed. And I think this is kind of a symptom of the problems they have with trying to make serious games. There is a couple of criticisms I could offer, though, for this particular chap. Some of the screenshots out of it, it's not his fault, but it is what it is. So we'll go with this one. I mean, this is one of the screenshots he offers from the game, which, of course, you play as this character here, the man, and then there are the Germans being Nazis, of course.
I was prepared for this screenshot, but I will say when I first saw it, I did smirk a little bit because this is a very memeable image.
And that's the thing. I mean, that's not his fault. I mean, the same way you could take screenshots.
Where's the lower half of their bodies?
I don't know.
I will admit, maybe it was for cost effectiveness. Maybe he'd already done some games in this style, so he had an engine that was able to do it, save money. This would not have been the art style that I would have chosen.
No, but either way, like it's got a serious tone. It's not taking the piss. And one of the things that...
And it's not censoring the imagery either, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's... like, the criticism of this and these screenshots could be like, oh, well, look, it looks funny. But, like, if you take a screenshot out of any film about the Holocaust, you can make some stupid meme that looks wrong.
I've seen many.
The point being, it's out of context. There is some other stuff that's a bit weird. Probably I would have changed. Like, who's in Paris? Nazis in Paris? I don't know.
It sounds like a mixtape.
Well, you know the meme, right? About who's in Paris?
No, I don't actually.
I think it's a Kanye West song about certain people in Paris.
Guts.
Yeah, so maybe, I don't know, I'd rename it.
Why does Kanye always get himself in these situations? How?
But that's the only two things I could find that even if you take out of context and try and make it funny, you could try and do something to spear him. Like, otherwise, he's done a fine job. And he goes on in here just talking about the bad treatment he's gotten. And I can feel for this guy, because he is actually trying to do something which, you know, there's obvious reasoning there, poured his own money in, made it free. And then he's had people like the Holocaust Museum coming in and poo-pooing him. I mean, he does actually say here, one of the situations that brought him on was the fact that there were a bunch of anti-Semitic incidents in his own life. So he says in 2021, there was a group of people waving Israeli flags with swastikas outside the Holocaust Museum, which, of course, the developer is a Jewish man himself. Wasn't too happy about that. So that made him go back and complete the game when he'd already given up on it because of all the bullying he got from people being like, don't do it, it's uncouth. Video games aren't art. And it's like, shut up. Like, this is the problem with not having games that take it seriously, is you end up having this feeling that you can't make something serious out of a video game, in my opinion. But anyway, just last sentence here. It says, unlike some video games which effectively whitewash the reality of the Nazis and their deeds, The Light in the Darkness, which is the name of the game, leaves no doubt about who and what they really were and what their symbols stood for. So there's that. And to be frankly, I read that story, I was just like, yeah, good on him. But it was a good vehicle for me.
Fair play for trying to make his game. I'll be honest, it's nothing that I would probably play. I'll stick with Devil May Cry, but
yeah, but I wanted to talk about this issue for a while and why I talk about World of War. But it's not the only place where the story ends, because I mean, it could have been worse. That's the thing, because you could sit there and be like, oh God, how dare he do this? Well, let's go back to Fortnite real quick. They've done it again. As you can see here.
They've done it again, folks.
You may remember they did, what was it, the Martin Luther King
where people were...
event?
Didn't people... No, they deactivated the whip emoji that you could do, but people started throwing tomatoes at it.
So now they've made the first Holocaust Museum in Fortnite, and they're like, yeah, look at us, we're doing good. It's like, you are not the place for this. I mean, that's my thing. If you want to do a serious game, that's cool, but like, not. Once again, Fortnite's not one.
Serious people are not in charge of gaming companies. Even if they were trying to make unserious games, just games for fun, serious people are not in charge of these organizations. I mean, if you are the head of whichever company it is, I don't care, don't tell me which it is. Whichever company makes Fortnite, you are in charge of making sure the game is fun and has new content, not in making sure the game reminds everybody about atrocities that were committed during World War II.
Like, it's not the theme of the game.
No.
Like, you see how World at War
what's
took place in Germany?
Are they going to add an Auschwitz map next? I mean, what's going to happen? That's going to be the... I'm not going to... You're right, I shouldn't give them ideas, because they might actually do that.
Yeah.
But this is stupid.
It is just dumb. Like, everything about this is dumb. And
the people in charge of Fortnite think of themselves as thought setters. They think of themselves as the shapers of public opinion. No, you created Fortnite.
I love the idea that you're going to be stood there trying to read the poster here on Crystal Dact. And the obvious response from people I saw online, which is going to be the response of people in the game, obviously, was like, yeah, what did you think the response was going to be for this? Like, people took the piss last time and you do it again because you don't have a serious audience, because you don't make serious games. Whereas, you know, like the World at War situation, I mean, I know there are people who would try and meme and everything, but I don't think any amount of memeing could take away from, example, the outro I played. Like, the tone and setting of the game is perfect for actually telling a story.
The memeiest thing was the fact that the bonus mode that you could unlock at the end of the game was Nazi zombies. And even then, that was just fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that you could really make fun of outside of the fact that, oh, isn't it silly that Nazi zombies? But everybody's been doing that for the past, 50 years in films anyway.
I don't know if you've noticed as well, just in the series of... Because Call of Duty maps, like World of War with obviously the 4 originals, they were all quite serious. There's a little bit of backstory and history, which was kind of cool. And then it went to Black Ops. You went all the way to the moon base map, which is a bit weird. But still, I mean, there's a sense of... It's not just complete Looney Tunes. Whereas in Black Ops 2, I just felt the maps, I couldn't even get into them because it's just like full Looney Tunes.
I didn't play Black Ops 2. The most I saw about Black Ops 2, I think there was a secret ending that you could unlock where Avenged Sevenfold performed a song that they had recorded specifically for the game. In the game. So you could see like a virtual Black Ops 2 concert of Avenged Sevenfold, who I've still not seen live and want to at some point.
Alrighty. But anyway, I've taken up enough time. I just wanted to kind of make the point, which I have previously, with some visual assets and with an argument here from this guy. Because I'm annoyed. I want better games. I want a new World of War. That's really all I want. Give it, please. And do good. Don't do dumb.
Explore interesting conflicts that we don't get to see in... I don't want to be fighting with Kit Harington in space, Call of Duty. Give me, like, Call of Duty, the Korean War.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Give me Call of...
That'd be super cool, to be honest.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Give me Call of Duty... Vietnam's a tricky subject. But then again, once again, I say all of this. Actually, Activision, don't. Because I know that the people who are in charge of Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer are not serious people. So don't do that. In fact, just stop.
But how cool would it be to have a Korean War Call of Duty where you get to play as the UN fighting the North Koreans or whatever?
It would be awesome.
Or the other way around as well. Like, anyway, but that's enough for me making points. Make better games. It's a simple message, but I don't think it's that hard. Don't do a Fortnite Holocaust Museum, for God's sakes. If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Brokenomics series, this episode on how to free your mind. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.